Well, folks, a new champion in college football has been crowned. The Indiana Hoosiers are your college football playoff national champions. They took down the Miami Hurricanes last night, 27-21, to win their first football national championship in school history, and they did it going 16-0. 16-0, the first program in modern college football to go 16-0 and win a national title. Folks, what Indiana has done under Curt Cignetti, this has to be the greatest turnaround in the history of sports. Not just college sports, sports period. I mean, what Indiana and Curt Cignetti has done over really these last 2 years, this is the kind of stuff that movies are made out of. Because listen, Indiana, who has the largest alumni base in the nation, Indiana was known primarily as a basketball school before Curt Cignetti got there. Matter of fact, Indiana was and still is to this day the latest basketball program to have an undefeated season when they went, I think, 26-0 in 1976. I mean, but when it came to football, they were totally irrelevant. Before Cignetti got there, Indiana was the losingest program in the history of college football. They had done nothing. Nobody talked about it. Nobody cared when it came to football with Indiana. Then Curt Cignetti arrives from JMU after he had built a winning program with the Dukes and then talked about Googling him in his introductory press conference because all he does is win. And all he has done since day one arriving in Bloomington is backing it up. He has been backing it up since day one. I mean, year one under Curt Cignetti, Indiana goes 11-2. They make it to the college football playoff, but got destroyed by Notre Dame in the first round. But regardless, it was a nice story. And then in the offseason, they get this kid, Fernando Mendoza, out of Cal. He was not a highly recruited kid. He was only a 2-star recruit coming out of high school. He wanted to go to Miami, but Miami didn't want him coming out of high school, even as a walk-on. And so he spends his first couple of years at Cal, and then he transfers to Indiana, where he was able to play with his brother Alberto, who was the backup quarterback over there. Fernando wins the Heisman Trophy, and he pretty much won it after that crazy game-winning drive against Penn State earlier in the season. And then he goes out and wins a national title against Miami in Miami. Like, folks, you just can't make that up. I mean, and I'm going to be honest with you guys. I figured Indiana could go on a run. But at the same time, you saw Ohio State, you saw Georgia, Alabama, even Oregon. I mean, teams, for what it's worth anyway, that had college football playoff experience. And what did the Hoosiers do? They bulldozed everyone in sight to the college football playoff title game. I mean, they were blowing teams out. I mean, even going back to the regular season, they had a point differential of 473 points, the most in the college football playoff era. And then they get to the playoff, they destroy Alabama in the Rose Bowl, and then they turn around and destroy Oregon in the Peach Bowl. And you had to figure with this matchup in the national championship, it was going to be much more competitive. I mean, the spread for the game was 8.5. Indiana was favored by 8.5. But you had to figure that Miami was going to cover and make it competitive. And that's exactly what it was. It was competitive, it was intense, and it was a drama-filled game like a national championship should be. And after that block punt to make the game 17-7 Indiana, you had to figure that the Hoosiers were going to put this game on cruise control. But you absolutely have to tip your hat to this Miami squad, who didn't give up, and they still made this thing a ball game. You had that long run that set up the Malachi Tony touchdown to make the game 17-14 late, and then Fernando Mendoza happened. Fernando freaking Mendoza on 4th and 5 at the Miami 13. Indiana runs a quarterback draw, and Mendoza bounces off a defender and finds the end zone to make it 24-14. I mean, that was an absolutely ridiculous, crazy play. And that was pretty much the summary of Indiana and this championship run. And after that play to make it 24-14, you had to figure that that was pretty much the game. And then, well, Malachi Tony happened. He ripped off 2 big runs, including the touchdown run, to make the game 24-21. And then Miami's defense gets a stop with about a minute 47 left in the game. The Hoosiers kicked the field goal to make it 27-21. And then Miami got the ball back, and we saw Carson Beck come in the clutch before, and of course with that game-winning drive against Ole Miss in the Fiesta Bowl. And then Beck tried to go for the kill on first down at the Indiana 47, and Carson Beck threw an absolute duck. I mean, that was a really, really bad throw by Carson Beck. Heavily underthrown ball. It gets intercepted. Ball game over. Indiana is your national champions of college football. I mean, an absolutely phenomenal game and a phenomenal story and a season for the Indiana Hoosiers. And listen, I can very much see this Hoosier team back in this position, winning another couple of college football championships, because basically Cignetti just wins. Curt Cignetti has just proven his salt, like I mentioned earlier, and he just wins. I mean, I don't know how you explain it. And now Fernando Mendoza, in all likelihood, is heading to the NFL. He's all but a lock to go to the Las Vegas Raiders with the number 1 pick, and that's pretty much the trifecta. You win the Heisman, you win the national championship, and then you go number 1 in the NFL draft. But I will say this. The only thing that I hope is that Fernando Mendoza makes the Raiders good. And by the way, at the championship game, you had Mark Davis, you had John Spytek, and you had Tom Brady there at the game watching Mendoza, because, like I said, he's probably going to be, well, not probably, he's more than likely heading to the Raiders. But I really hope he makes the Raiders good, because I believe the NFL is better when the Raiders are good and they're relevant for the right reasons. I don't want this kid to bust. I don't want this kid to bust. Whoever the coach of the Raiders is going to be, I hope he doesn't get fired and they just have to go through a reset. Or worse yet, you have like a Jets scenario with Sam Darnold, where Darnold doesn't succeed with the Jets, and then he goes to Seattle somewhere, and he's now 1 win away from going to a Super Bowl. I want Mendoza to be good, and I want him to make the Raiders relevant. That's all I'm hoping for. I mean, an incredible story from him, Cignetti, Indiana. I mean, that just phenomenal stuff. But congratulations to the champions of college football, the Indiana Hoosiers. I'm Kadarius Washington. This is the Sports Rundown. Like, comment, subscribe. Click that notification button to be notified when I post again, and also follow me on Twitter and on Bluesky at CW Talk Sports. That's CWTALKS Sports, and I will see y'all the next time. Peace.